What is up? My name is Emily Mark from the blog marriedmark.com, and every Wednesday I upload a new video on attainable homemaking for busy working women. So if you're new around here, be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button if you like to garden, and let's get into my 7 best tips so that you can have a successful garden this year. I've been in the garden since I was a little kid, helping my parents grow vegetables, and then I even went to college to study plant science. And you guys, I just have such a passion for growing plants, growing food, and even having those smiles that you get from seeing beautiful flowers growing in your yard. But I know that not everybody has a green thumb. But if you hit that like button, it turns blue, so it's close to green, right? But I just want to go over 7 common tips, 7 common problems and tips on how to avoid those problems as a beginner gardener. Some people say like, I just can't grow plants, but the problem is you just don't know exactly how to grow them and what your expectations should be for those plants. So these tips are really going to help you get a head start on your garden for this year. So my tip number 1 is one of the biggest problems that people have is either overwatering or underwatering. Now, a lot of people think that they just underwater their plants and that's why they're dead. So they go way overboard and give their plants way too much water and then they still die. And they're like, what the heck? Why are my plants dying? I'm giving them all the water. That's probably why. Just like people can't drink too much water, otherwise we will die. If we literally will die if we drink way too much water in a short period of time. Plants are the same way, guys, especially if they are not in well-draining soil, if they are in a container that is not well-draining, they will die from too much water. So this tip kind of ties into my tip number 2, which is to study your plants. Guys, you want to make sure that you are educating yourself about the plant that you want to grow. Not all plants are the same. Not all plants need the same things. Guys, even just look at the seeds that come from different plants. The seeds are so different from each other, which is something that it really just blows my mind how God has created plants and seeds, and it's really so unique. But every plant has different preferences on light levels, times of year to plant depending on where you live, different watering preferences, different spacing or container preferences. And so you really want to research these plants that you are planting so that you can give them the best quality life that will help them to thrive wherever you have them planted, whether it be, an indoor pot, a flower garden, or a vegetable garden, or even fruit trees. The kind of soil is also important for your plants. You guys cannot just use topsoil in a container for an indoor plant and expect that plant to thrive. It needs a well-draining potting mix to have either bark or peat or perlite, something that will help it to drain, especially if it's in a container, so that all of the soil won't just compact and then it will become waterlogged and there won't be air circulation that really is so critical for those roots, especially to help it not to get diseased. Guys, the third tip that I have that you need to do that not a lot of people do who kill plants is to feed your plants. Guys, you have to fertilize. You can't expect a baby human to survive if you don't feed it. Why do you expect a baby plant to survive if you don't feed it? Okay, so I think a lot of people think, oh, well, plants grow in the ground and the ground is full of nutrients. This is true, but sometimes it does need to be supplemented with either compost or humus or, some kind of amendments into the soil. And if you keep planting the same plants in the same area, whether it be on a field or in a raised bed, eventually the plant is going to use up all of the available nutrients, and you need to be able to supplement that, and whether that be somewhat of an organic matter or liquid feed, a granular control release feed like Osmocote, whatever that is, you need to make sure that the plant is getting enough food. Now, if you have an indoor plant, like I was saying, you need to make sure that it's not just like topsoil in the plant. And a lot of fresh potting mixes that you get do have a little bit of fertilizer in the form of a controlled release fertilizer. That would be like an Osmocote, these tiny little prills that are filled with fertilizer inside of them and then release based off of the temperature or water that you're providing for the plant. Now, this will run out eventually. So if you have plants that are in the same pot for a year or more, you need to make sure that you are continually fertilizing at the correct time too. There are some plants that need a rest, so you don't want to necessarily fertilize over the winter, and you want to make sure that they can go dormant and that they can rest and not just be constantly grow. Like, they will not survive that way. They will not thrive that way either. My fourth tip that a lot of people skip is they do not prune their plants at all or the correct way. Now, specifically when you're growing tomatoes, you want to make sure that you are clipping off what they call the hairy armpit so that the plant will grow more efficiently. Basically, when you look at the tomato plant, you have the one branch that is going to produce the fruit and the stem that is holding up, it's growing vertically. That's the lifeblood of your plant. And then you have all of these other branches or stems, that grow the fruit. And then right in between, there is a little hairy armpit that grows between the stalk and the branch. And that you want to be able to clip off before it starts growing too much, because it's not actually contributing to anything vital for the plant. It's not going to be having any kinds of fruit on it, and it's actually just going to get in the way. You can run into disease problems because there's not enough airflow for the plant, and fungus can grow. It's a powdery mildew is a big problem in tomatoes. So you want to make sure that you learn whatever plant that you are growing, how to prune it correctly, and whether to do that before it goes dormant, after it goes dormant, while it's growing. There's a lot of variations. So just learn how to care best for your plants. Okay, the fifth tip that I have is you need to be scouting for diseases and pests. Now, whether you want to go completely organic or you don't care if it's OMRI certified, it doesn't matter, but you need to have a couple options in your arsenal. Personally, I will eat anything. It does not matter to me if it's organic or not, but if I'm the person who's going out to spray, I want to use something that I know is safer. And so oftentimes I will reach for something that's organic, and I will definitely read the label to see if it recommends anything specifically that you wear while you are applying this pesticide. Now, I have used non-OMRI certified pesticides too, and just wear gloves or wear, pants and long sleeves and shoes and socks, all of that. Basically, that's called personal protective equipment, PPE. So make sure that you are following those guidelines while you are applying the chemicals. Or if you are a woman like me of childbearing age, then you might want to ask your husband or your dad or whoever, male figure, to go out there and apply the pesticides for you if you don't want to do it yourself, which I've done that as well. My husband sprays the trees so that I don't have to worry about any kind of drift or anything like that. Pesticides are something to be wise and be cautious about, but don't be too scared about them. Do your research. Like I said, wear the right clothing that you need when you apply it. But if you let things go out of control, things will really go out of control very, very quickly. Even indoor plants sometimes need pest control, so be sure to monitor it. Be sure when you bring in a new plant to kind of quarantine that plant and make sure that it doesn't have any pests before you move it by your other indoor plants. Okay, my 6th tip is to make sure that you are correctly weeding and mulching your garden. So you don't want weeds to completely overrun your garden, because not only is it unsightly, but they can also harbor additional pests or even diseases that can transfer over to your plants that you are actually wanting to grow. So make sure that you have a good weeding control, plan, but don't spray Roundup in your garden, because you're going to kill your plants. So be really careful with those herbicides. Be really, really careful with pre-emergent herbicides, especially if you're trying to sprout seeds in the ground, because it will also, it will limit your weeds from growing, but it'll also limit your plants that you are trying to grow from growing. And then the last thing with that is for mulching. Black mulch is great for tomatoes. It's great for weed control, especially when you have established plants, to be able to lay a layer of wood mulch, or you can even do straw. You could do black plastic mulch. You could do a green cover of clover. Clover is actually nitrogen fixing too, so that's also another tip. But whatever you do for kind of a cover, just make sure not to pile it up against the plant. So if you've got your plant here, don't volcano it so that it's like piled up extra around the plant. You want to make sure that it's spread out away from the plant. So you've got your plant here, you've got a little bit of mulch, but it's going away from it. It's not piling up towards it. And the reason is because, especially for trees, bugs and diseases can harbor within that mulch and create a serious problem for your plants. Okay, guys, we made it to my last tip, and this is the most important. Try your best, but be okay with imperfection. Okay, guys, these are living plants. This isn't just something that came off of a manufacturing assembly line. This is real nature. And plants are not going to be completely perfect. You might get a spot on a leaf, or you might get apple leaf rust. You might have a tree that looked pretty and then gets hit by some lightning and then, it's an ugly tree. But just care for your plants to the best of your ability and be okay with imperfections. Learn from them, grow from them, and then use that knowledge to grow new plants. And just be willing to learn, adapt, and keep researching, keep looking up the best practices, keep growing as a grower, and you're going to have a whole lot of fun in your garden and find success over years of trial and error. My friend Elise, who is a huge plant lady, I love her, she's like, the only reason I'm really good at growing indoor plants is because I've killed a lot of plants. And it's true, you really just have to dive in, jump in, and learn how to do it. And just from that trial and error, from your research, figure things out, and you will have success over the long haul. If you get one succulent and you put it in the dark corner of your kitchen and then you wonder why it doesn't grow and you never try again, well, you'll never realize that you might actually have a green thumb after all. And make sure to give me a blue thumb if you like this video. Okay, I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much, and let me know in the comments below if you have any other questions about gardening, or if you are going to implement any of these tips this year in your garden. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.